They called it punishment, but no one asked her what it felt like to be handed over like an unwanted object. Mira stood in the village courtyard with her eyes lowered, fingers clenched into the worn fabric of her dupatta. Whispers crawled through the crowd like insects, sharp, mocking, cruel. Some women covered their mouths as they laughed. Others shook their heads in pity. Men smirked openly, satisfied that justice had been served. She's too fat, too lazy, too useless, someone muttered. No man wanted her, another voice added. So they gave her to him. To Raghav, the poorest farmer in the region, or so everyone believed. Raghav stood a little distance away, barefoot, his kurta faded by years of sun and dust. His bullock cart was old, the wood cracked, the wheels groaning. He didn't look angry. He didn't look pleased either. He simply waited. Mira was 26. Since childhood, her body had been the reason for every insult she'd ever swallowed. She ate too much, they said. She moved too slowly. She took up too much space. When her parents died, she became a burden no one wanted. She worked harder than most, but no one noticed effort when they were busy counting flaws. The village elders decided she was a problem to be solved. Raghav, they said, needed a wife. Mira, they said, needed discipline. So they tied their decisions together and called it fate. No wedding songs were sung. No bangles were gifted. She was placed on the back of the cart with her small cloth bundle, as if being delivered, not married. When the cart lurched forward, laughter followed them down the dirt road. Mira stared at the ground the entire way, bracing herself for a life of humiliation. She expected harsh words. They never came. Raghav didn't speak much as they traveled. When they reached his hut, small, clean, surrounded by fields, he helped her down without touching her skin, as if afraid to offend. You must be tired, he said quietly. Food is inside. That night, Mira cried into the thin pillow, convinced the kindness was temporary. Kindness always was. The days that followed confused her. Raghav woke before sunrise, but never forced her to follow. He cooked simple meals and left her portion covered so it would stay warm. When she insisted on working, he showed her how to feed the animals, how to water crops, not once commenting on her body, her pace, or her mistakes. No insults. No orders. No disgust. At first, she waited for the real punishment to begin. It didn't. Instead, something unfamiliar crept into her chest: safety. Raghav was known in the village as poor because he lived simply. His clothes were plain. His hut had no decorations. He sold crops through middlemen who spoke for him. He never attended gatherings or argued over land. People assumed silence meant weakness. They were wrong. Weeks turned into months. Mira grew stronger from the physical work, not thinner, just stronger. Her breath came easier. Her sleep was deeper. And slowly, painfully, she began to stand straighter. One afternoon, a group of men arrived on horseback. Their clothes were expensive. Their boots clean. Mira froze, fear crawling up her spine. Visitors like these usually brought trouble. Raghav stepped forward calmly. The men greeted him with respect, deep respect. Sir, one said, bowing slightly. The eastern acres need your approval before harvest. Mira stared. Sir. Raghav nodded. I'll come tomorrow. After they left, Mira couldn't contain herself. Who were they? Raghav hesitated, then sighed. Managers. Managers of what? He looked at the fields stretching endlessly beyond the hut, golden under the sun. The land. How much land? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Raghav met her eyes. Most of it. The truth spilled out slowly, like a story too heavy to tell all at once. Raghav's father had been one of the largest landowners in the district. Thousands of acres, passed down quietly. But after watching greed destroy families, Raghav chose a different life. He dressed like a laborer, lived among workers, and managed everything from the shadows. Wealth, he believed, revealed the worst in people. So he hid it. The village didn't give Mira to a poor farmer. They gave her to a man who owned more land than anyone they bowed to. Mira's knees buckled. She sat down, overwhelmed, not by riches, but by realization. All those people who laughed. All those elders who judged. They never knew. And you didn't tell me, she said softly. Raghav smiled, not unkindly. I wanted you to see me first. Not what I own. Tears burned her eyes. For the first time in her life, she wasn't chosen last. She wasn't settled for. She wasn't used as a lesson. She was seen. News travels fast in villages. Faster than truth, faster than shame. When whispers turned into certainty, the same people who mocked Mira arrived with sweets and apologies. The elders praised their own wisdom. Women who laughed now complimented her cooking. Men lowered their eyes when Raghav passed. Mira watched it all quietly. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Raghav found her standing at the edge of the field, staring toward the village. They'll never really be sorry, she said. I know, he replied. They didn't change, she continued. They just found out who you are. Raghav looked at her. And who are you? She thought for a moment. I'm not your punishment, she said. And I'm not their mistake. A year later, Mira stood before the same courtyard where she had once been handed over in shame. This time, she wore simple clothes, no jewelry, no need to impress. She spoke calmly, clearly. You measured my worth by my body, she said. You thought fat meant weak. You thought poor meant powerless. You were wrong on both counts. No one interrupted. I wasn't rescued by wealth, she continued. I was rescued by respect. She turned and walked away, head high. From that day on, things began to change, slowly, unevenly, but undeniably. Girls were no longer spoken of like burdens. Silence was no longer mistaken for failure. And Mira, once called punishment, became proof. Proof that dignity can grow in the harshest soil. And that sometimes, the greatest wealth a person can own is the courage to see value where the world refuses to look.